How are we doing today, guys? It's Jesse with the Comment Man, Corpus, Christi. So here we are. We've got a little, this was brought up at the Election Integrity Project last night of Nueces County that I am a member of, full disclosure as always. So this was something that was brought up. Sean Flanagan, who you guys have seen on the show before, on Flanagan's from Flanagan's Freedom Hour on the Bob Jones show every Thursday, he saw this interview, and basically he was telling me that it was basically like Judge Barbara Canales and Senator Hinojosa basically just ragging on the new HB6 that's currently going through, and HB7, I believe, is its counter in the Senate that's already passed. But HB6, they're basically calling it a bunch of Jim Crow laws, comparing it, basically saying the same kind of things they were saying about the Georgia law. So we're going to go through this news article, debunk some of the stuff that they've been talking about, and I'll actually bring up the actual bill, and we'll go over a few things. All right, so Texas lawmaker, this is from KII, our local Channel 3 news station. Texas lawmakers react to new proposed tightening of voting rules. Governor Greg Abbott and Republican lawmakers say the proposed tightening of voting rules is all about election integrity and preventing fraud, which, if you've read the bill, you'd probably agree. Republicans in the state Senate have already passed their Senate Bill 7, and in the House, Republicans are looking to push through their House Bill 6. This is happening after Governor Greg Abbott said the election integrity was an emergency item for the legislature to take action. Republican SB7 is all about election integrity. It looks to protect partisan poll watchers and even allow them to videotape voters who are getting help filling out their ballot. It also would ban election officials from sending out vote-by-mail applications, and unless a voter asks for one. It also bans 24-hour voting locations as well as drive-through voting locations. While it may be called election integrity, the fact that it is really voter suppression type of legislation, said State Senator Chuy Hinojosa with District 20. Hinojosa said the bill in the legislatures are usually nonpartisan, but SB7 and HB6 have become glaring exceptions. Obviously, SB7 is going to be challenged in court, but keep in mind that our country, we have a long history of voter suppression from Civil War on. We try to find ways to suppress from the Civil War on, we try to find ways to suppress the vote to keep certain people from voting, and the target was always minorities, and that has not changed. Okay, I've read through this entire bill. There is absolutely nothing in the bill, in HB6, that I have read whatsoever that refers to anybody's ethnicity in any way, shape, or form. So that right there is total garbage. They are trying to compare this, saying it is targeting minorities. That's total BS. We'll go through the bill, at least a little bit. It's 25 pages long. There's a lot. Republicans said HB6 is also about election integrity and trying to prevent fraud. It also will increase criminal penalties and create criminal offenses related to voting. It would also prevent election officials from removing poll watchers and make it a crime if they try. All of that is true. I read every single bit of that out of this bill. Detractors said that it's looking to curb access to voting even more than SB7. We need to make sure that the right vote is not curtailed. Nueces County Judge Barbara Canales. You all remember her from all of the shutdown stuff over the summer, right? Yeah, that was her. It should be available to people, and I remember days when my grandmother, had her poll tax. Those were dark days. Those are days we never want to relive again. There is literally nothing about a poll tax in this. All this is total gaslighting. Canales believes state lawmakers should be focused on making voter access to our elections easier, not harder. After all, it was proven that there was no voter fraud during the 2020 presidential election, which saw more mail-in ballot used as well as curbside voting. Okay, I do not know. The way this is written, they should put quotes around this because this sounds like a quote from somebody, but they are stating it as fact. And right there, I can prove that is complete and total BS. Right here from some of our own here, check this out. Texas woman, this is from 1/13/2021. This is from the Houston Chronicle, powered by Microsoft News. Screw those guys. Anyway, San Antonio, Texas woman arrested on election fraud charges based on Project Veritas video. Okay, that's from this year, 2020's election. So them saying that there was no voter fraud is an absolute lie. This article, right from the Houston Chronicle, proves it. If anybody checked out, you can watch the Project Veritas videos. Right here, San Antonio. A former campaign worker was arrested Wednesday and charged with election tampering, the state attorney's general office announced. The allegations surfaced last fall after conservative activist group Project Veritas posted an edited video of the woman. See what they do there? He posts the whole unedited video. The initial video was edited for time purposes, but if you go onto their YouTube channel, you can watch the whole video. Raquel Rodriguez, in which she appears to be helping an elderly person fill out a mail-in ballot form and discussing unlawful tactics, including assisting people at the polls. That video was from our election in 2020. Okay? Attorney General Ken Paxton, a Republican, said in a statement that his office reviewed dozens of hours of unedited footage, and that Rodriguez says at one point that she knows her actions are illegal. Okay? This kind of stuff right here is exactly what HB6 is trying to prevent. The charges, all felonies, could result in up to 20 years in prison. Okay? So tell me again how there was no election interference whatsoever. Let's see. Let's go back here. What did they say? After all, it was proven there was no voter fraud. Okay? So how exactly would you define this? This lady was interfering illegally with the votes, with these people's ballots. Okay? So explain to me. Yeah. Helping an elderly person fill out a mail-in ballot form and discussing unlawful taxes, including assisting people at the polls. Right here. This is a victory from Ken Paxton. This is a victory for election integrity and a strong signal that anyone who attempts to defraud, see, right there, he even calls it fraud, defraud the people of Texas, deprive them of a vote, or undermine the integrity of elections will be brought to justice. This article right here and many other incidences that have happened like this are exactly why HB6 exists. All right, let's continue on with the lies from our local little KII. I hope that the wisdom of the legislature that they continue to make voting accessible for all. Canales said, we don't need limits on voting. There's nothing in the bill that limits the voting. We need to make sure everybody who is eligible to vote should be able to vote in a way that is accessible. Okay? This doesn't put on, most of this stuff doesn't put any limits on voting other than the fact that it eliminates the 24-hour drive-through voting thing. That's insane. I don't even know if it actually eliminates that. At least not in the, it might indirectly eliminate those kind of things, but the drive-through voting I don't think was ever specifically, when I went through the legislation, I don't think it was ever specifically in there. Governor Greg Abbott has been quoted as saying he didn't know how many or if any elections in the state were altered because of voter fraud. See, that's one of them tricky lines they used to do. We don't, just because fraud happened doesn't necessarily mean it was enough to change the outcome of an election. But it doesn't matter. Fraud still should not be happening. It's illegal. It's a crime. So many people point to those statements as part of evidence the Republican lawmakers' current efforts to change the election rules are not about voter fraud, but voter suppression. Right there, you can tell that's more talking points directly out of the Democratic Party. All right, so let's go over to another article real quick that shows you, this one is from, I believe this one was from Austin, from a group out of Austin, Texomos, homepage.com. Now this one's at least a little more balanced. One of the congressmen that's co-sponsoring this, he's actually, if you go to this article and actually watch the video, he's quoted in this. And he's actually quoted in the article as well. Civil rights leaders call on Texas lawmakers to vote against election regulation bills while Republicans defend the legislation. I think this article was honestly a little more balanced than the other one. Okay, yeah, Austin, next star. On Monday, interfaith leaders and civil rights advocates gathered at the Texas Capitol to call on state legislators to vote against election regulations bills that said they would lead to voter suppression. We don't have to title the bill voter suppression for us to know what that does. Texas NAACP President Gary Bledsoe began the press conference on Monday explaining how Senate Bill 7 and House Bill 6 would disproportionately affect minorities. When you require voting sites that have the same vote capacity in certain counties, whether they are urban or rural, it negatively impacts the urban community. Making things consistent across all the counties so that way everything's done the same way, that doesn't sound like it's going to disparage anybody. You've got plenty of time, especially with the early voting and everything else, to go vote. Just be it the size of the place really shouldn't matter. The bills would also enforce voting hours from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m., ban drop-off mail-in ballot boxes, and allow poll watchers to record voters suspected of fraud while receiving assistance filling out their ballots. What's wrong with any of that? It will not do to have partisan poll watchers intimidate voters with surveillance. It will not do to have the good faith efforts of election judges be jeopardized. Robbie Neal Bloom said the conference making his opposition of the bill is clear. If you're not doing anything wrong, what are you worried about? You should be proud of what you're doing. You should ask people to record for you. You should be proud of serving your state in this election in an honorable and honest way. The same, you wanted body cams on cops, right? Why? So you could see everything they were doing was honest and trustworthy. If everything is honest and trustworthy that you're doing here at the election, what's wrong with cameras? What's wrong with recording it? Senate bill, the Texas Public Policy Foundation said more transparency is needed because poll workers can be partisan too. Correct. Senate Bill 7 and House Bill, this is one of the things I said I liked about this article because it was a little more balanced because it actually goes, it quotes from both sides. Senate Bill 7 and House Bill 6 try to clarify watchers as they are part of state law to ensure that local election officials are actually following state law. Chuck DeVore with the TPF said Monday. State Republicans said the bills are designed to prevent voter fraud, not suppress voters. This bill is going to protect people's votes and is not going to prevent anyone and stand in their way. Co-author of HB6, Representative J.C. Jetton, it might be Hasty Hitton, I don't know, I might be pronouncing that wrong, I'm sorry if I am. If it did, I wouldn't be in favor of it. Republicans insist the bill is not in respects to the 2020 election. We had these similar bills in 2015 and 2017, Representative Jetton explained, saying the legislature tries to pass different election security measures each session, which, from what I understand, is true. These bills are a solution in each search of a problem, Democratic Representative Ronalds of Sugar Land argued. Okay, so that right there, in search of a problem, that's obviously not true. I just showed you articles talking about the fraud that the voter fraud that happened, or the voter fraud that happened in the fall. Not enough to change the election, YouTube. I know you're watching. Not enough to change the election, but there was voter fraud. We just had an article that proves it. The idea behind these bills, according to the Republicans, is to reinstate confidence in the election process and address inconsistencies in voting operations across the state that popped up during the pandemic. That includes many practices in Harris County like drive-through voting. I think it's important that if you move from Harris County to Fort Bend County, that the way you vote in both places in the same time, there should be minimum expectation. There should be a minimum expectations. So basically just making it consistent across the board. But Democrats said restoring faith should not mean more regulation. This should be, how can we expand voting rights? How can we make more accessible? Well, this is about making things more secure. Introduce your own legislation to make things more accessible. Also, to go back up here this real quick, these bills are a solution in search of a problem, Democratic Representative Ron Reynolds of Sugar Land argued. Okay, that's funny, because check this out. Once this loads. This was from back in November. November 6th. So one day after the election, right? A social worker in the Mexico State Supported Living Center has been charged with 134 felony counts in an election fraud investigation. Okay, one of the key elements to this HB6 that I'm going to show you, I'm going to give you a little brief overview here in a minute. It right there specifically addresses this exact same thing right here, because it specifically requires that the person swear or affirm an oath that says they are not doing illegal things and helping people assist in their voting or in any way influence them. So here we go. Social worker in Mexico, so 134 felony counts in election fraud investigation. The Texas State Attorney General's Office Election Fraud Unit assisted the Limestone County Sheriff and District Attorney in charging Kelly Reagan Brunner. If convicted, Brunner faces up to 10 years in prison for the alleged offense. I think it goes back in here, Intellectual Development News release Friday on 6. Okay, so Brunner allegedly submitted voter registration applications for 67 residents without their signature or effective consent while purporting to act as their agent. Under Texas law, only a parent, spouse, or child who is qualified voter of the county may act as an agent in registering a person to vote. After being appointed to do so by that person, the AG's office said, that is something else that this law fixes as well. It allows more people to assist, but they have to sign an affidavit swearing and affirming that they are not trying to influence this person's vote in any way, shape, or form. None of the SSLC patients gave effective consent to be registered, and a number of them have been declared totally mentally incapacitated by a court, thereby making them ineligible to vote. Okay, right there. This is another prime example of something that HB6 is trying to avoid. So there's this other stuff that was, I know I ran across some other bills that was talking about some stuff some articles that talked about other stuff that happened in 2018 and everything else. So right there, this is all showing you that it's all BS. All right, so let's go over here. So if you don't believe me, which all means question everything, right? Question with boldness, even the very existence of God. For if there be a God, that you prefer honest questioning over blindfolded fear. Okay, so really simple. All you have to do is DuckDuckGo, TLO, Texas, and this website will pull up. This is the Texas Legislature online. This gives you the history. You can go here on HB6 and you can look up the bill. You can look at all of its history. You can click on another link and you get, this is right here. This is the exact legislation. This is the whole thing by word that you can go on here. It's 25 pages. It's smaller than a short story or smaller than a novella. You can literally read this in like 15, 20 minutes and just go through here and look at it yourself. everything that I'm about to talk to on this bullet points from Jetten, I will show you right here. Everything he says is true. So here we go. This is from the Texas House of Representatives. Hassie Hitton. Like I said, I might be JC Hitton. I might be screwing that up. Jesse Jetton. I'm sorry if I am. Okay. House Bill 6 does not impact your ability to vote, but instead protects your vote from theft and fraud. Okay, so stop right here. Stop paid ballot harvesting and trafficking. A bipartisan commission on election reform chaired by President Jimmy Carter and James Bacher advised fraud occurs in several ways. Absentee ballots remain the largest source of potential voter fraud. Vote buying schemes are more difficult to detect when citizens vote by mail. President Carter, a Democrat, reaffirmed this concern in May 2020, but ballot harvesting is not explicitly prohibited by state law. HB6 would criminalize those in attempting to exploit vulnerable communities by creating penalties for individuals paying for ballot harvesting or tracking. All of that is true. I read that. I read those sections in the bill. Like I said, go over there, read HB6 yourself. Stop voter assistance and fraud. HB6 strengthens the security of voters who need assistance by requiring a vote assistant to complete a form describing their involvement. See, this is exactly what we were talking about. This would have prevented, well, at least it would have been easier to punish this lady that the other article was talking about. Voters with vision limitations who do not speak English as their first language and voters who require assistance for other reasons are the individuals most likely to be victimized by voter assistance fraud, which is exactly what that other article showed. That was exactly what that was voter assistance fraud. HB6 protects those voters by requiring information from the assister. Okay, that information is showing an ID when you sign and affirm your waiver and doing the oath that says you are not trying to do anything illegal by helping this person vote. Okay, that's awesome. That is exactly in the bill. I can't see why anybody would disagree with that or call that Jim Crow or poll tax in any way, shape, or form. They're just blowing stuff up your butt at this point. It's all malarkey. All right. Accountability in the polls. Poll workers are assigned by political parties and poll watchers to ensure there is accountability in following our elections. Okay, this part is referring to the fact that they can't kick poll watchers out. Like, you have to have a very valid, legitimate, legal reason to do it, and it makes it very, very complicated. It's almost impossible now to kick out a poll watcher that has been appointed by a party or by a commission or anybody else. It also codifies and specifically tells you who is allowed in certain areas and what their specific places are and their specific titles. It really cleans a lot of that up and makes it very specific so it's easier to prosecute on stuff like that. Preventing voter intimidation. The election code does not clearly define which individuals are allowed in polling locations. This is the thing I was just talking about. Ballot board facilities or central count locations. HB6 does not change who can access these areas, but it summarizes the information currently scattered throughout the election code and adds an offense for individuals in unlawful loitering in the election locations. Jetten filed HB 1128 with nearly identical language which passed unanimously out of the election committees. So this is just another section that's been put into HB6. HB6 is a big encompassing bill. It's only 25 pages long, not that hard to read, but it's big for Texas's bills. A lot of our bills aren't that big. Chairman Kane presented House Bill 6. So that's how, yeah, okay, this is actually good information. The hearing for House Bill 6 lasted more than 20 hours. Go watch some of the live testimony on that. From what I hear, it's absolutely insane. Some of the people that were up there talking. So yeah, like I said, if you get a chance, go check out those videos. Like I said, it's supposed to be very entertaining from what I've heard. So yeah, I think that's about all I've got for today. I think that was a lot of the information I want you to check out. So make sure you go subscribe to the YouTube channel, like this video. It helps out the algorithm. All of that stuff really likes. And please, if you have not got on Odyssey yet, please do come over to Odyssey. We don't have any subscribers on there yet. We don't have any followers. So if you can come over, if you download the Odyssey app, it's another free place to go and watch videos. It's going to be a lot. I think it's going to end up being a lot more secure than what YouTube is. So yeah, as always, guys, come over, interact with the Facebook page, get on the post, check out the comments, check that out for daily news. I try to update that as much as I can. Follow us on Twitter. Subscribe to this channel, like this video. If you guys need anything else, if you guys got something specific you want to talk to me about, let me know. Leave something in the comments. From Corpus Christi, for the common man, this is Jesse. Have a good day, guys. Bye. P.S. I know some of you guys always ask about the t-shirts and I always get compliments everywhere I go, so I forgot to talk about my t-shirt in this one. It's not a riot. It's a mostly peaceful Christmas tree lighting ceremony. I got that from the Blaze Media, so go check those guys out. They're good folk. They got a lot of really cool t-shirts. Thanks, guys. Bye.